One thing I really love about Red Dead Redemption 2 is how random encounters can slowly turn into full stories if you actually follow them instead of ignoring them. Most players either loot everything immediately or move on too quickly. But sometimes, if you take your time, the game reveals much more than you expect. Today, I want to share 2 encounters that started small but turned into something surprisingly memorable. Honestly, these are the kinds of moments that made me stop rushing through the game and start paying attention to the world itself. While riding toward Flatneck Station, I suddenly heard someone shouting for help from the side of the road. When I got closer, I saw a prisoner chained at the legs. He begged me to shoot the chains off so he could escape. Now, technically, you have choices here. You can help him, ignore him, or even kill him. But this time, I decided to help. So I carefully shot the chains, freed him, and after thanking me, he gave me information about an old woman living alone near Strawberry. At first, it sounded like a simple, random tip, but I decided to check it out anyway.
I got no money to give you, but I think I might got something even better. Some of those fellows talked about this old crone up north of Strawberry. Got herself a tidy sum locked away. Maybe just stories, but they were sure excited.
Oh yeah? Why'd I be interested in that, huh?
I don't know, just a hunch. It's up to you, friend.
I'd keep low, I was you.
Yeah, you got that right.
When I reached the location, I found a small, isolated house. A donkey was standing outside, and an old woman appeared to be living there alone. Most players probably rob or kill her immediately, but I wanted to see how the situation would play out naturally. So instead, I talked to her briefly, then quietly explored the house.
Sorry, what are you talking about?
Just leave what you got in the cellar and be on your way. My guts give me hell, and I ain't in a sociable mood.
I ain't sure what you want from me, lady.
Are you dead in the head, boy? Put the loot down in the cellar with the rest of it. Is that clear enough?
Downstairs, I discovered a weapon box containing a shotgun. I slowly picked it up and tried leaving quietly.
Hey, what's taking so long down there? Stop poking around and get back up here.
At first, the old woman didn't seem to realize what was happening, but eventually, she recognized that I was not one of her people, and immediately accused me of stealing. She started yelling at me to get out, so I left the area without harming her.
I thought they said be one of them Russell boys.
You always this hospitable with your guests, lady?
Let me give you some advice. Turn around. Walk out of here. Get far, far away.
I'm just gonna take what I need, lady, then be on my way.
Hey, wait. That's my gun. Thieving bastard. Mine ain't that bad. You're as good as dead already.
But something about the place felt unfinished. So I camped nearby for the night and returned the next morning. Before even entering the property, I could hear male voices, which meant the old woman was no longer alone.
I got everything I need right here. How many times, Elijah? Shut your mouth before I shut it for you.
The moment I entered, Arthur was immediately attacked and thrown into the mud. At that point, combat became unavoidable. Usually, there are 3 men outside, 1 inside the house. I fought all 4 of them, but intentionally kept the old woman alive. Then I left again.
cross these four off that list. Yep.
The next day, I returned one more time. This time, everything was completely silent. No voices, no movement. Inside the house, loot and supplies were scattered everywhere. As I explored further, I found a wanted poster mentioning a massive bounty. That's when it became clear. This was the hideout of the Watson brothers gang. The poster mentioned a $500 bounty connected to Ethan Watson. Then I noticed something disturbing. Inside the house, there was a body wrapped in a blanket. Nearby, a family photograph of the four brothers and their mother. But here's the strange part. Before uncovering the body, if you look through binoculars carefully, it almost appears alive. The eyes seem to move slightly. The forehead looks like it's breathing. It creates an incredibly unsettling feeling. But once you actually inspect the body, nothing happens. I honestly don't know if Rockstar intended this as a visual illusion or something deeper, but it made the entire encounter feel much darker. And that's why I think this encounter is much more interesting if you don't immediately kill everyone on first sight. Then I lotted the house fully. Now, the second encounter is much rarer. In all my playthroughs, I've only triggered it a couple of times. While traveling through the wilderness, you suddenly hear a woman screaming for help. When you reach the area, she's trapped on top of a rock, completely surrounded by wolves, and her horse is already dead nearby. The first thing you need to do, kill all the wolves quickly. Once the area is safe, the woman climbs down. And here's where I noticed something strange. She drops a torch. Not a normal one either, it looks slightly different. I tried picking it up, but every time I switched weapons or selected something else, the torch would fall from Arthur's hands. I couldn't permanently keep it. If any of you managed to save or store that torch somehow, I'd genuinely like to know how.
Carol.
Afterward, she asks for a ride back to Strawberry. And during the ride, she slowly explains her situation. Her life is clearly falling apart. She mentions her sister is sick, her horse died, she lost her only weapon, and she no longer knows what to do next. What makes this encounter interesting is that Rockstar never fully explains everything. The game leaves gaps in the story intentionally, which somehow makes it feel more realistic. It feels less like a mission and more like Arthur briefly crossing paths with someone having the worst day of their life. Moments like these are why I still keep exploring this game years later. A random prisoner, an isolated house, or a woman trapped by wolves can slowly turn into entire hidden stories if you actually follow them through. And honestly, I still have more encounters and strange discoveries like this saved up for future videos. So if you enjoy these deeper, random event breakdowns, there's definitely more coming.
Monsters jumped my horse. Flew out into the brush somewhere, and I couldn't get it back. I was surrounded, and I tried to run as much as I could, but they were too close. One of them had a red runner, something between its jaws, like it had some kill caught there. It was my horse. I didn't know it until you showed up, and I had a moment to think on it. It had some of my horse stuck between its teeth.
Could be worse, though. A lot worse.
I suppose. I don't know what I'll do now, mister. Horse is gone, sister's sick, rifle's gone. Might have been easier if you hadn't found me at all back there. Oh, God, I shouldn't say that. I hope I don't mean that. I'm sorry, Enid. I'm sorry.
Okay, then.
Oh, we're getting close. I didn't think I'd see home again. Lisa, would you mind picking up the pace? I'm getting real cold and I'm worried about my sister. Here. Oh, I can never believe all you've done for me. Me and my sister. Thank you.
Don't mention. Good luck to you. All right, Ann. You're not needed.